Okay, so if you didn't know, this is a special edition of Good Day Street Talk. Antoine Lewis reporting. Here's what we're working on. Being in the Halloween spirit today, we're going to tell you where you can find some of the spookiest haunts in our area to visit for a ghoulishly fun time. And then a little bit later, healthy Halloween alternatives for trick-or-treaters. But first, ghost stories, voodoo, and things that go bump in the night. Sounds like a really frightening movie that you can watch on October 31st. Or what if you could experience it in person instead? Here to tell us how you can take part of that tonight is magician and performer Jason Suran. Jason, so nice to meet you.
So nice
Welcome
to meet
Good
you.
Day Street Talks. Thank you for being here. Now, you specialize, the show is called Sèance.
The Sèance,
The
yeah.
Sèance. Tell us about it.
It is essentially an homage to a kind of magic and a kind of show that at one point in American history was incredibly popular and taken very seriously, but that's been largely left to history.
How did you come up with the idea to do it as a theatrical event?
Well, there's all sorts of different kinds of seances, but the thing we were particularly interested in was recreating the kind of magic that really became popularized by the people who put on these shows in the late 1800s. And that was the point from which we set out, was to bring that back to life and bring that show back to life, because it really was an incredibly theatrical experience.
12 seats, 12 or 13 seats?
13 including me.
13 including you, okay. So that gives intimacy, which for those of us who have seen them, whether depicted or in person, it's usually like a small, intimate setting, you know, so you're doing it theatrically. How does it lend itself to the, I don't want to say spookiness, eeriness, or to the effectiveness of what it is that you're there to present?
Well, I think it's necessary to that effectiveness, because the kind of stuff we're doing is not a magic show per se. It's not this big set of illusions. Okay. It's telling ghost stories, and it's talking about the people who made their livings bringing ghosts to life in the Victorian era. And in order to recreate the effect that they had on their audiences and their sitters, I think you need the same level of intimacy that they had, that sort of parlor room setting where everyone feels like they've been invited to just sort of a creepy dinner party.
So what are the things that happen? Like, what will someone who attends the seance experience?
They will experience things that go bump. They will experience the inexplicable. And they will experience the kind of skin-crawling, chilling sensation that I think the seance was particularly good at instilling, that very few, if any, theatrical experiences can instill in the same way.
Now, you wanted me to participate in some capacity, so why don't we let everybody in on what we're going to do, and you just take it over from here. You just treat me as if I were one of your attendees.
It would be a pleasure. This is one of my absolute favorite effects that really became popular during that era. It's called the spirit slates.
Okay.
And the idea behind it was actually very simple. A medium would come to his or her seance with 2 blank chalk slates, and everyone else would be asked to come with a name in mind of someone who was no longer with us on the mortal plane, that they hoped would reach through the veil and make contact. So your job is to just think of a name right now of anybody you like, really whatsoever, that is no longer with us, as long as it's not too personally upsetting.
Okay, I cannot be related to the person, just...
Absolutely,
okay.
Absolutely.
Got it. I have one.
And just imagine that name in your mind.
Okay.
Focus on it. At this point, the medium would take the 2 slates, sandwich them together like so, and set them down and step right back. Now, different mediums had different ways of getting the writing onto the slates. Some would write beneath a cheesecloth and claim that their hand was being guided by the spirit world. Others would just write something generic on them that could apply to anybody, like "don't worry about the money" or "I always loved you," that sort of thing. But my favorites were the very creative type, like a fellow named Daniel Home, who was actually caught at his seance with a second slate hidden beneath his seat that he could write on with his toes.
Oh, wow.
But people believed in this. I mean, people really did buy into this, and people bought slates like these at auction for what would today be thousands of dollars. What was the name you were thinking?
John.
All over. A simple trick.
Oh, wow. And just full disclosure, I was thinking John F. Kennedy, meaning John, our president, but John was, I've always admired him, and John was whom I was thinking.
And that's how you were picturing the name?
Yeah, John. I was going to say, JFK. I said, no, John, meaning John F. Kennedy. It was John. That is pretty amazing. Okay, I had a small degree of skepticism. I wasn't quite sure. Full disclosure. But how do you deal with it? Because there are a lot of people who express a little bit more skepticism about it. How do you deal with that?
We get the whole range at our show, and I myself I describe myself as an enthusiast. I do not speak to the dead. I do not contact the dead for people, talk to relatives or anything like that. But I'm fascinated by this material because of the profound effect it had on people. And so to skeptics, I would say, come and enjoy the show for what it is, which is a show. And
Tell us where it is. Tell us where it is. Where can people come to the seance?
It's at Highlight Studios on 30th Street, right down in Midtown. You can catch it, tonight's actually our last night. We're closing tonight, but we have 3 performances tonight. So stop on by. I'm sure we'd love to have you.
What's the website again?
You can get tickets at atasteofmagicnyc.com by clicking on the seance.
All right, and you perform in and around the city outside of this? You're doing other things?
I'm a co-producer of a show called A Taste of Magic, which runs every Saturday night here in the city. It's a dinner magic show, and I obviously have my own shows that I do throughout the city as well.
We'll put your website up. This may freak you out a little bit. Just let me touch you or something.
Sure,
okay.
Fair. Fair.
This really was, it was John F. Kennedy. It really was. So nice to meet you.
It was a pleasure to meet you as well.
Oh my gosh, stay right there. All right, coming up next, the Ghosts of Gotham. We're going to take you on a tour of some of the city's most haunted places.